these are the Euro Tournament Pack boots in the Phantom silo from Nike. We have the Lunar 2 and the GX2, and well, it could be a little bit Marmite whether you love or hate the pink, but for me, one, I love a pink boot, and two, for a tournament pack, oh, chef's kiss to go with pink. So what we're doing today is a full review, because somehow this boot's been out since January and I still haven't reviewed it, neither the GX or the Lunar. And yet this is actually the third different colorway that I've both had through my hands, and in some cases, including this one, on feet. So the idea of this particular pack colorway is to highlight the key areas of the boot. So if you look at the Tiempo, if you look at the Mercurial, the area that they really want to highlight, the special tech, the special feature, is in bright pink. The Tiempo is the sole plate, for example, for speed. Now on this boot, you'll notice that, well, pretty much all of it is bright pink, especially on the upper. So that's where we're going to start, because it does make the most sense, and it is the Gripknit upper. And I have to say, and I'm going to say this right out of the gate, I think this upper and this boot is an improvement over the previous generation. Now, there was a whole heap of nonsense talk, which I actually made a video on in January, about people getting very upset about the launch of this boot for a variety of reasons, including the GX being replaced. But you know what? I think this is better, and you know what? Let's get the GX and look at why. So the first improvement, and the thing that really makes the difference for me, is going to be this one-piece system that you get on the new one versus the two-piece on the old GX. So the old GX, you have this Flyknit piece that runs down into the boot, so you have this kind of hole where your laces go in, with your Gripknit covering the top of the boot. Now this is fine, it's not a bad thing, but transitioning to a full one-piece Gripknit upper, I just think makes the most amount of sense. It's more seamless, it's more consistent, it feels better in general on my foot. Doesn't have this somewhat silly little lace pocket that runs down the end here, and that for me is a huge plus. Now the Gripknit itself has also been modified. So here you can kind of see where the Gripknit is based on the two different colors of the material. So you have this slightly darker area and the lighter area. The darker area are the Gripknit yarns that have been woven through. Now, I think the grip on this particular boot is, again, less consistent and also more effective, which, hear me out, I actually think is a bad thing. This can be incredibly effective, especially if you're going to try and use it on, say, an AG pitch or like a dry surface. This can get very, very grippy. It's phenomenal in the wet, but it can be overly grippy. This just feels more uniform, more consistent, and overall is slightly less grippy, and it's slightly more controllable. You know what you're getting and you know how to handle it a lot faster. And I prefer the way that this particular Gripknit feels. Now, we will get onto the fit, which is where there are definitely some differences, and I maybe would prefer, maybe, I'll decide when I get there, the original GX. But yeah, for me, the upper is just a win. This Gripknit upper, and then you've got these ridged textures that are also through the boot, which you didn't get over here. Now, this is very much a matter of preference. They don't do a massive amount, but I actually, again, prefer having the ribbing than not having the ribbing on this particular boot, on this particular style. You know what? I'll go for another walk. Let's get the original Lunar out too. If you do want to pick anything up from the Nike Euros pack, the Mad Brilliance pack, or you just fancy picking up a Nike boot in any colorway, top end, low end, whatever it is, then please hit the link down in the top pinned comment and in the description. It doesn't affect how you buy boots, but it really helps support the channel. So please hit those links if you want to check out the boots. So here we have it. This is the Phantom Lunar one, and you can see the inspiration there. So you've got all of the ridging, all of the textures, and then you apply that to this, and that's where you get the inspiration. So you've got more of the Gripknit style from here. Now, this had Gripknit, but for me, this wasn't really particularly grippy. It was too covered over. There wasn't really enough exposed Gripknit for it to make a difference. So you get the Gripknit style, you get from here, and then you also get the ridges from the Luna, and you kind of got a best of both worlds situation, in my opinion, what leads to a very nice upper, a really nice touch on the ball. It's tactile, it's grippy without being overly grippy. It is incredibly soft out of the box, and even softer once you've broken it in. So this is my Luna, which is nice and broken in, but even if you compare that to the GX here, hold on, let's take the paper out. How much paper's in this damn thing? You can see that this is still very soft, but once it's broken in, oh, that's lovely. So for me, this is softer, the touch on the ball is better, the touch on the ball is more consistent. It's overall just a better boot. It is better than the GX was originally, and it is significantly better than the Luna was when it comes to the upper. It's all a win. Now, obviously, with that softness also comes a really nice degree of comfort. This is going to mold, bend, and shape to your foot to a degree. So I think the comfort is high. Overall, very high comfort in this boot. I have absolutely zero issues through the heel. The heel on this is actually remarkably good. For a top-end boot, which frequently at the moment means you get a shoddy heel, this is excellent. Nike have continued with this idea of taking out a section of the heel and allowing it to be very soft, and then you're getting a lot of your structure around the edges. So this leads to very minimal pressure points and a very easy break-in time for the heel. If you enjoyed the heel on the original Luna or on the original GX, then you're absolutely gonna love this. It is wonderful. It's got just the right amount of padding. It's not actually a lot, but it's a really nice amount, and the material they've used does a great job of just holding on to your socks. I don't feel the need for grip socks, especially in the heel, but I generally test with grip socks anyway. Now, I mentioned obviously about being soft, about being moldable, and that's all being great and it managing to mold around your foot, but there is an issue. And this might not be an issue for a lot of you, because one of the comments, the questions I get the most is, how do I get a boot for wide feet? What's the best boot for wide feet? Well, my answer at the moment is pretty much gonna be this. Now, realistically, probably this, because it's going to make your life a little bit easier not having to get in through a DF collar. But generally, the current GX2 and Luna 2 lines are going to be your best bet for definitely a Nike wide fit boot, and one of the best wide fit boots that you can go and get. There is plenty of room through the midfoot, slightly less in the toe box. It still does end up being a little bit pinched through here, but this is quite simply a wide midfoot boot, and particularly I think if you have a flat foot, this is going to be wonderful. Now, with that in mind, and with all of this magical width that's going to be great for so many of you, it presents itself a little bit of an issue for me personally, and anybody that doesn't have a wide foot. Now, I have a reasonably high volume foot, so I fill up a lot of the volume around this boot very well, and I don't have any excess material across the top of the foot at all. If you have a narrow foot or a low volume foot, this boot isn't going to be for you. Low volume, you're just going to get big amounts of pinching and excess material across the top, which you don't want. I absolutely don't have that. The only place that I do have a small issue is in this area just here. There's a little bit too much material, too much width, and I just get a tiny bunch down here. Now, thankfully, that hasn't really affected me when I'm playing. I've not had any pressure points, I've not had any blistering or anything like that, or any discomfort really, but it's definitely something to be aware of, particularly if you do have that narrower foot or even a regular foot and you want something that's really seamless and is going to follow every contour of your foot. There is definitely a little bit of excess material on this medial side for me, and I think a few people are going to experience that. But like I say, there's a ton of you that all send me questions and messages being like, how do I get a wide fit boot? Especially because you want a Nike wide fit boot. This, my friends, is absolutely your answer. Absolutely wonderful. Now, I did mention about the toe box being a little bit on the pinch side, and I also think the boot runs slightly long. I personally have found it to be maybe about a quarter size long. I actually found exactly the same thing with the GX. Now, if you do have that wider foot, that material, that space is probably going to be taken up quite well. You don't need to consider dropping half a size, but in your current Nike boots, if you already have a little bit of room at the end of them, you might want to go down a half a size in these. But my general advice is to stick to whatever size you would normally get in your Nike boots. As for the volume in the toe box, it has been somewhat of a trend recently across boots to produce these incredibly low and pointed toe boxes in boots. This a little pointed, but there is still a good amount of volume there, so I wouldn't be worried about that too much if fit and toe box volume is a concern you've got. So let's talk about lockdown, and then we'll talk about responsiveness and the sole plate all as one. So the lockdown here is good without being absolutely exceptional. One of your issues is, again, that width that you have and the lacing system and the way it's set up means that you can't really pull that lace really tight and get a full lockdown, locked in feeling. But the lockdown just naturally on the boot is good. Again, unless you have a narrow foot, you're going to struggle. But for me, the lockdown has felt good. I felt very secure in the boot. It's not speed boot, like really like rammed in and locked down, but it's very comfortable lockdown. It's nothing excessive. It just feels nice, and I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it, but I do feel locked in and secure in the boot. And that, again, applies to the heel. So lockdown is good, unless you want speed boot, locked in kind of vibes. That's not the kind of boot it is either. As for the responsiveness, we've of course got this very soft upper. So sometimes if you combine a very soft upper and you're looking for good responsiveness, you're not going to get it because you haven't got anything to support you as you make big cuts and push against these sidewalls. Now, again, the responsiveness here is good. It's not the most responsive boot on the market, but that's not really an issue caused by the upper of the boot. Considering the softness, does a very good job of being responsive. The outsole, on the other hand, is a slightly weird one. This is not a particularly responsive outsole, despite having a very aggressive stud pattern. And the reason for that is because it is too flexible through this midfoot. Like, that is just too bendy for my liking. I want more structure, more stability, and I just overall think that's going to provide a better boot, a more responsive boot, which is probably my main criticism of this boot. The fit thing is all about how your foot fits inside a boot, and that applies to all boots. Get a boot that fits your foot perfectly. But the outsole here, I think this is an error. It just needed to be replaced. Now, this is a Cyclone 360 sole plate, Cyclone 360 tooling, which again, Nike have highlighted here with the bright pink, and it's taken directly from the previous generation Luna, and it hasn't been changed. It's the same tooling, one to the other. And again, that's what you get on the GX, and it's not significantly better getting the AG plate either. There's not more structure, rigidity through that midfoot. So if you are looking for something super stable through this midfoot area, you're just not going to get it here. It's a lot more free. It's a lot more natural feeling, but I definitely want more structure through here. But let's talk about the actual stud pattern and stud shape itself. Yes, it is pretty aggressive. It is bladed studs all the way around. And I have heard a lot of misinformation regarding the Cyclone 360 tooling here. People just kind of getting the wrong impression about what it's about. Now, realistically, this is designed so that you can get good bite into the turf, but also have the ability to rotate and push off without getting stuck. And it works. It is a solid idea. I honestly, the first time I heard that with the Luna 1, I was like, that's not going to work. It does work. And there's just a lot of people who've got the wrong idea. That's what it's for. It's so that you are able to plant, rotate, and push off without fear of getting stuck in the turf. Now, this was originally obviously on the Lunar 1 with regards to it being a women's specific boot, a women's specific fit designed to try and reduce the instance of injury, particularly ACL injuries, which can be caused by twisting and rotating. And that is what this Cyclone 360 tooling is designed to do. Now, the GX2, the Lunar 2, there's no longer a women's fit in there, but they have kept the tooling. And honestly, it just seems to have irked some people that the women's specific tooling has come across onto a unisex boot. And I just don't know why. Like, wind your neck in and have a think. If it's good tooling, it's good tooling. And I think this is good. It's good multi-direction, it's nice and aggressive, and yes, this is a boot that you shouldn't wear on AG because obviously it will ruin your warranty because this is an FG stud pattern, but it's not actually as bad as you would think. You'd think I'd be here going, absolutely do not wear this stud pattern, the sole plate on an AG pitch. Well, actually, it's been fine. I've not had any issues whatsoever. Obviously, I'm not recommending you go out and use FG sole plates on AG pitches. I never do that. But if you really want to, I actually have experienced no issues personally with this sole plate on an AG pitch, and I think it's been excellent on an FG pitch when it comes to stud shape, stud pattern, but too much flexibility. And again, for people moaning about the flexibility in the Cyclone 360 plate and all this other stuff, the original GX had tooling that was too flexible as well. It's just facts. If you are wondering about the AG plate, I'll obviously put some pictures up from when I was testing the AG plate on the original colorway of these, and you can use that, I think, as an FG AG option. So that actually is good enough. If you have like a firm ground that's a reasonably nice pitch, you could use that across both surfaces, and that's probably a safer option than using the FG across both surfaces. Let's cover a few little quick fire things. Let's start with the DF collar versus the non-DF collar. What's the difference? Quite literally a collar. I adore this DF collar, though. It's probably my favorite ever Nike DF collar design. And again, it's exactly the same as what was on the previous Lunar. I absolutely love the collar, but it's more expensive to get this. So logically you would think to get this, but I will cover this in a future video. I find that the fit around the ankle area is better in the Lunar, which is why it is my preference. The durability so far has been exceptional. I've not had even the slightest bit of separation, cracking, damage, or anything like that on any of the GXs or Lunars that I have had, so I'm really pleased with that. And in terms of break-in time, honestly, if you give this an hour, it will be buttery soft and you can go, but I would say you could probably get away with going into a game with these. I never recommend that, but maybe one training session, jump them in a game, I don't see a problem. I would take the risk on this. Personally, I'm like, just got one pair of boots and I need to take a brand new pair of boots into a game, then, you know, I wouldn't have an aversion to doing that with the brand new Lunar. If you're still undecided and you want to check out some more shots of the Mad Brilliance pack on feet, then check out this video right here.